We're going to have students come in and out. My name is Professor John Walker, and I have been working with students from MIT and Harvard to try to help occupy Boston find ways of winterizing their structures. And we have also worked with Brian, who's actually, we're giving him an honorary degree in architecture, but he has actually occupied Boston. And what you see here on the table are structures that Brian and his MIT students have made, different ways that we can winterize the structures. And basically, the idea is that you would have an outer tint that could be folded up and then brought in. And then it can have a double layer of insulation material, something that could be transparent. And over there we have a little, Brian is making a little larger one, but they're still not to full scale. And then the tent can sit underneath this. So the point is that dead air is the best way of insulating from the outside. So if you had a cover here and the tent inside, then you've got some insulation. Now it doesn't solve everything, because you've got to, for any campers here, if you camp out in the winter on frozen earth, it's like on an iceberg, and your body heat goes very quickly. So we need to have insulation below the sleeping bags, which we intend to do also. And we feel that this kind of solution is temporary, first of all, it's not permanent. And secondly, it would solve the problem. They're not necessarily going to be warm and cozy at 68 degrees. But the other ideas that we've worked with are keeping people warm, including heating up hot water and putting them into water bottles that might take the bed with them. Or what my grandmother used to do for me, which was to heat up a brick. And I lived in a farmhouse that didn't have heat, and I could share it with me, and by doing so, I could stay warm all night. I thought it was cool once as a kid. So that's the intention, and there's a number of different structures here for sure how we're doing that. But I have to say that even though MIT students and Harvard students have been working on this, the Occupy Boston people have been doing a hell of a lot. In fact, like Brian, have done a tremendous amount of ideas that we've been building. So it's been really a mutual kind of design project. The students that have been involved, just so you know, are completely volunteer. They're not getting credit or funding for this. They're just students who are interested in trying to help in any way they can. So then we came to what we see here, because it's, Brian, you're welcome to jump in anytime you feel so. We feel as though, the group I should say, feels as though that we want to give a new image to Occupy Boston, that is not just tents, but maybe something that is very special, something that people would come to see just the village, if you wish. And so with those structures, we are trying to redesign a plan for the area that might be the beginning of the greenhouse on the Roseway that they've talked about as a community place for people to come together. So it's quite more encompassing. So then we thought, we tried to do some plans, and then we found that there were many variables, and the variables seem to change every day. So we produced this model, which is a model that anyone can play with, not an architect design, but a people's design, which was what I believe in. So that anyone here is welcome to come along and change. But it's a way of visualizing what a new plan might look like, and a way of getting the input of as many people in the winterization group as possible. So you can see here that these are these kinds of structures. These are longer tents. This is a community space.
Yes.
Transparent. But here's a case where one of these might be used to cover 4 tents or so. So, but this is, we just did this quickly, but I think the hope is that people from the winterization group would start to play themselves with it, just as I am, of designing different ways of putting the structures together.
You're suggesting you shouldn't be the only one that has fun?
Thank you. Yes, I am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, I believe that architects should provide tools for people to design for themselves. And so this is a way of doing that, as opposed to architects just, or planners just making a design and saying, here it is, people, if you like it or don't. So this is kind of in tune with what I believe in as a process of architecture. But yes, it's true. Everybody should have fun in the design process. So that's where we are, but I think I just want to go back to saying that, can we make something that Boston would be very proud of? And, not just a bunch of tents, which is at one stage, but something that's quite beautiful. So maybe people would come and say, gee, I want to see what this looks like, I want to be part of it. Brian, you want to add something to this?
I want to add something to it. One of the bases for the design is the sustainability of these structures because they're so efficient. And what we're doing, it is in direct correlation with what the indigenous people used to do. There's structures that are very communal. The resources that are needed to habitate these structures for meetings or for whatever use you want are, I mean, we're not preying on the environment. We're not using a lot of energy. And we're coming together and we're trying to create ideas that make the city more livable and shared more with every population. The Rose Kennedy Greenway had a statement where they said they wanted to put together a space where people could come together from disparate parts of life, and this is what we're doing right now. I'm not an architect. I like to design things, but my key part in this movement was to come down and meet people and learn things, and I've learned so much just by participating, and I would like to see this develop into somewhere where we could just always come together and use this space collectively.
Questions? Yeah.
So earlier today,
Yes.
we saw that the city of Boston isn't very engaged with this space in these terms. Is this something that's, I mean, it's not exactly an architectural problem, it's, you know, a community issue. Has there been any thought around that with these structures in terms of how politically they could come into this space?
Brian, you want to?
Repeat the question really quick again, I'm sorry.
So, in short, as we saw earlier today, the city of Boston doesn't want new things in this space. Has there been any thought within the group working on this project how we might bring things into this space?
Brian, could I throw that question too?
Oh, sorry.
No, thank you. I think it's a critical question on today as we attempt to bring in additional tents that are going to meet the various specifications that come out of the Fire Marshal's office and the Department of Public Health, the sanitary conditions and so forth. So there are real concerns there for the city. On the one hand, we're trying to address them, you know, with a city that is friendly and encouraging us to do those kinds of things. On the other hand, we're in confrontation with the Boston Police and other components of the city that are less friendly and less disposed to wanting us to continue there. So I think that the situation should resolve itself. I think that what the MIT students and Professor Wobbler and others at Harvard, as you mentioned, how many students are involved in this program?
Over a period of time, we've been about 15, but
About 15,
they come and go.
various 15 students, so that there's a great deal of creative energy that is coming out of our academic institutions. There's a great deal of creative energy that are coming from the camp, the occupiers themselves, and others who variously visit us. I think the question here is whether through the process of co-design, whether we can improve the safety and the health and the fire standards and the beauty of this, the beauty of the site and the functionality of this site going forward. So this is a process of participatory democracy, consensus building that doesn't only just involve the people that are down there sleeping in a tent. There's the whole wide community, that is sitting behind this.
So I guess my question was, is there anybody friendly on the city side that is coming to this table? Or are they standing outside of this?
Just today, they gave us this piece of paper that gives us all the contacts, and anything that we try to do, they would know about first. It's not gonna be a rogue movement where we say, hey, we're just throw these things up. We're gonna say, this is what we're proposing, this is what our minds came together, this is what we're trying to do, and we wanna work together to maintain this site and make sure it's here for people to use. So we have the contact information, and we are not gonna go around these people, we're gonna work with them.
Assuming they want to work with us.
Assuming they want to. But definitely, it won't be anything, we don't want to go this way, we're going to go with the movement in the flow.
We are dealing with a bureaucracy here, meaning that the left hand doesn't necessarily talk with the right hand.
For our kind of purposes with each other.
I was just gonna try to clarify his question and say, how are you gonna sneak the stuff in?
We're not going to sneak this.
Right, that's what I'm saying, I just don't see how otherwise it's
Yeah,
gonna
no.
get in there, I mean, it's,
If they
We're gonna
find the sink, they're going to
propose.
find the tent.
I'm going to ask if,
We brought the sink in the front door.
yeah,
I think the idea of the model again is to show the authorities that what they're suggesting, or help them do, is not in violation of what they want, but is in fact a temporary solution that would appease them. So it's not a confrontation by any means, from my point of view.
and they're temporary structures, they fold down really easily. I mean, they're going to be designed that if it was need be, it just, everything could like fold down. It's not permanence. But if they're beautiful enough, they'll stay pretty long, I think. So, yeah.
What would you skin them with? What would-
Various materials. We didn't bring too many samples, but transparency is part of the movement, so it will be dictated by transparency. I was going to set that one up, I didn't have time, but it will be beautiful. During the day, we'll use the sun, and at night, they'll emit light. So this design has transparent skin, and double layer transparent skin. So there's still some privacy for the smaller units, but the big units, the pyramids, light would come in. And light is essential to our survival on the planet, and light should be inherent in the design. And we're going to use the sun. We talked about solar panels. Everything we do, we have turbine designs based off the same design, and they're not big turbines, but just enough to charge a laptop and have some communication. So we're going to apply everything green to this model. It's a green way, it's a green plan, and we're going to do it together. And none of this, we're just, like I said, we're going to try to move together on this. And it's definitely, like my heart is in this, and I've told you, ever since I've been involved, I feel something great is going to come out of this. And it can be applied throughout the planet. We're going to live together, work together, and we're not going to use up the resources.
So in a way, this might act as a model not only for here, but for other places in terms of sustainability and using materials, by the way, that are not toxic, that won't harm anyone.
Bamboo.
Let me talk about bamboo for a second, because I've been working with bamboo with my students. And the student upstairs is doing pieces on bamboo. I'm working in Haiti also with the, after the earthquake. There's an exhibit downstairs in the lobby if you'd like to see. But bamboo is an incredible material. It's a material that grows very quickly, as you know. It can be replenished. It can go very, very tall, 60, 70, 80 feet even. It's very strong in compression. It is also strong in tension, but it has flexibility. For instance, in Haiti, in terms of the earthquakes, it has flexibility so it'll move around with an earthquake. And if there's a hurricane, it will move around. So, and bamboo grows in a band around the world where the most housing is needed. And think about it, it seems to me that the housing of the future has to not only have renewable resources, but local resources. It makes no sense to me that in Haiti, the structures are flown in from Florida to be used in Haiti. It doesn't help the Haitians. The real thing is not only housing, but how to find employment for people, and this is the way of doing it.